That's how it started with me. I started buying condos because I had heard, they were pretty easy to get into, relatively easy to manage and maintain, right? All you do is pay the HOA fee and you kind of let, the management company handle the rest. So I started with, 2-bedroom garden style condos. And then as COVID was rolling, I was buying one of those a month. And then slowly rolled that into buying multifamily, then rolled that into buying commercial, then started getting involved in real estate in Florida. So, yeah, that was the first one, though. It started with garden-style condos.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 178 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, we get the great pleasure of chatting with Steve Niemaszyk. Steve is a good friend of mine and fellow investor based out of New Hampshire. What's going on, Steve? How the hell you doing, man?
Pretty good, Kyle. How you doing?
Nice, dude. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to have you on here, man, and dig into your story a little bit. And yeah.
Yeah, man, for sure. We've known each other for years, and we haven't really had a chance to really get to know one another on a personal level. So yeah, I'm glad to hop on and do this with you.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so honestly, wherever you want to jump in, man. I usually leave it up to guests, wherever they want to kind of jump into their story, like where they grew up or getting into real estate, whatever. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, cool. Sure. So I'm originally from Pelham, New Hampshire. Fast forward a whole bunch of years after graduation, was in finance for a while and got laid off during the big recession back in 2007, early 2008. And literally came home that night, grabbed a couple bottles of wine on the way home, talked with my wife on the couch and said, what can we do that's not economy driven, that we're never going to lose our jobs again? And what happened then was we started a commercial cleaning company. Started growing that company for the next 15 years, which we still currently own today. And that kind of parlayed us into the real estate field, which is, I know it's crazy, but that's really how we got started.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super neat, man. Do you think, how did that, I guess, kind of like idea come about, like when you were in that situation to kind of go in the commercial cleaning type of space?
So my wife was a stay-at-home mom. We have 2 teenage boys now. So she was at home with them when they were young. They were 3 and 4 at the time. So we were really just looking for something that we were in control of our own destiny. So I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I was coming from a 6-figure office job, right? Which is what everyone dreams about having. And I literally thrusted myself into 16-hour days, working every single aspect of a business you can have, from wearing the bookkeeper hat to wearing the raising money hat to wearing, going out and cleaning the buildings to sourcing products, hiring employees, the whole nine. Like it was a struggle.
Wow. That's nuts, man. I can imagine, especially like coming from that type of finance background and jumping into a whole different type of beast and a lot of different types of roles and how that must have been starting off, especially.
It was quite challenging, but every time, you try to stack up your little wins in life, right? So every time there was a little win, you're like, okay, this is working. So you have hope again, and then you just keep building on those wins. And before you know it, I mean, we got to a point where we were employing, I think, 48 people.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, so it worked. I mean, like anything, right? If you stick with it long enough, it'll work.
Yeah. I love that, man. That's super freaking cool.
Yeah. So when COVID kind of destroyed most people, me being in the cleaning world, it blew me up. It was crazy.
I can imagine.
We started doing better than we ever did in our lives. So the next logical step was buy real estate.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, man. And it's funny you say that too, because I was just on Facebook earlier and I saw there was like a Cody Sanchez. I don't know if you had seen her on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so she guys, she like buys businesses and like that kind of thing. And like there was just this little like clip that she posted or whatever, and she's like, oh, like a lot of people end up finding themselves coming from the business world and end up buying real estate later. Or, you know, a lot of these folks that have like huge portfolios and that type of shit usually started off, you know, from some sort of business prior,
Right.
you know, for scalability and this, that, the other. But I thought it was neat. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that
it's
makes a
true.
ton of sense, man.
Yeah. And a lot of businesses are doing that too. So, you know, now I know a lot of plumbers, electricians, and things like that that own their own shop, and their next logical step is to buy either multifamily or get into a syndication of some kind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. That's wild, man. That must have been absolutely nuts during COVID. Like, you know, and basically like, you know, the vast majority of the world was falling apart. And like you had this
Yeah.
like, you know, I don't know if like recession proof's the right word, but like this like crazy economic defensive like thing that you already had built, you know, from years before. And being able to like have a lot of strength in that, you know, while everybody else was running around like a nut, you know what I mean? And
They were,
being
and
able to
we were hiring like crazy then too. When everybody put a pause on everything, like our revenue doubled month over month. Like it was
wow,
literally insane. Yeah.
that's unbelievable, man. That's super
Yeah.
cool.
Looking back at it now, I was completely blessed. So I'm thankful.
Absolutely. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. So going from that point, man, like you end up, you know, in a pretty decent spot. And I guess how did like kind of like real estate jump into the picture of like, hey, like, you know, we should, you know, take some of the W's from this column and maybe put, you know, shift them into a different column in kind of a different way. How did that thought, I guess, kind of like first come about, and maybe like the first couple avenues that you might have explored as like a
Sure.
path to go?
Yeah. So that actually came about by a mutual friend of ours, Gordon.
Nice.
I
Mhm.
was actually doing a strip and wax job myself, and I got a call from Gordon, and he says, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Sounds like
He says,
Gordon.
why aren't you investing in real estate?" And literally a month later, I closed on my first condo.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that's how it started with me. I started buying condos because I had heard, you know, they were pretty easy to get into, relatively easy to manage and maintain, right? All you do is pay the HOA fee and you kind of let, you know, the management company handle the rest. So I started with, you know, 2-bedroom garden style condos. And then as COVID was rolling, I was buying one of those a month, and
Damn.
then slowly rolled that into buying multifamily, then rolled that into buying commercial, then started getting involved in real estate in Florida. So yeah, that was the first one though. It started with garden style condos.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love it, man. It's talk about a path of progression, right? I mean, kind of going from, you know, the different focuses as, you know, time went on and that kind of
Oh, of
thing.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Did you end up like, I guess, what kind of like financing and stuff did you use for the condos? Like, was it like a 25% down type deal, or like to keep buying them like repetitively?
Yeah. So I kind of did things backwards in life, right? I didn't know about house hacking when I was 20 years old. So I had already lived in my primary residence. So anything I wanted to buy was an investment property. So I had to come up with, so I figured, you know, good credit, bank statements, that whole thing, you know, being from a self-employed background, I needed to come up with 25% down. So that's what I did for like my first 7 deals,
Gotcha.
not even realizing that there was an entire world of creative finance out there
Yeah, I
and
hear
getting
you,
into
man.
flips and doing all that. But I, you know, none of that was even like on my radar. So it's been
Exactly.
wild. It's been wild.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I feel like it's one of those things too that like the vast majority of people don't know that aren't in our world, that like there's different ways to play the game and that kind of thing. You know,
Right.
it's I feel like most people are like, oh yeah, like, you know, buy some investment properties, like hell yeah, like sounds cool, like a great idea, you know. But then
Yeah.
it's like you dig in a little bit more and it's like, oh well, there's 1.5 million different ways to be able to do that. So
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
you know,
But
you
that's what
could,
makes it fun, right? So that's the challenge for me, is there's always like another way to peel the onion back, right? There's always another layer of something to learn.
yeah. Exactly, man. Did you end up when you kind of decided to go from the condo to like the multi route, did you end up like selling those off, 1031ing, or like leveraging equity, and like did you end up like
No,
holding on to those or selling them and just kind of going all in on like the multi side?
no, still own all the condos, never sold them.
Nice, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm not I mean, I have 1031 a couple of things coming from the Keys up north in New Hampshire. I have done a 1031, and then I did another 1031 selling a flip house going back down to Florida and buying something else. But from transitioning to the condos into multifamily, no, I just came up with another 25%.
Nice, man. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
take me through this one. Is a little bit selfish on my end, but like take us kind of through when you're in the multifamily spot, right?
Yep.
And now I assume, at some point the commercial route started to, kind of cross your mind as another potential path to go. Wanting to explore something different than like the comp based evaluations, NOI based, and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, take us kind of through, like, what did that first commercial property look like? And kind of like the dynamics of like, I don't know, going from like, I guess like the resi multis to, kind of like a step up in a sense. Like was it just
Okay.
you, or did you have like partners, or how'd you kind of go about that first one?
So my first commercial loan, so to speak, use that word loosely, loan. Gordon and I were in on a deal that we were going to do as a flip. It was a 5-family in Nashua. And as we progressed through it, him and I talked, and I said, I'd like to own this. So then it was a matter of me approaching the bank from a creative position of, I already own a percentage of this property. How can I obtain the other percentage of the property? So then I just have the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first segue into the larger multifamily world and the commercial world. So I already kind of had a foot in the door. I just didn't really know what I was doing from the banking standpoint. Now I realize commercial loans are so much easier than residential loans. It's unbelievable. Like, I'll never go back.
I hear you, man. I totally hear you.
And then my next one was crazy. So my next commercial deal was a resort up in Twin Mountain called the Mountain Cottages.
Gotcha.
So I had sold a property down in Key Largo, used a 1031 exchange to go in and buy that one. And that was all myself doing it, no partners. Our purchase price was $1.4 million.
Nice.
And that was bought right in the middle of COVID.
That's badass, man. Right in the belly of the beast, right?
Right in the belly of the beast. Yeah. And it was a short-term rental too, right? So it was like totally taking the dice and throwing them, but it worked out.
I love it, man. That's super neat. How when that thing kind of came about, like obviously that was different from the past couple, types of like sub assets, I guess, if you will.
Sure.
Like this, now jumping into a space that is different, in like the STR space and like a whole ass resort, you know what I mean? Like, I guess what was kind of going through your head at that point? Like did everything like just kind of seem like it penciled out and like the area and was like, all right, man, like let's do it? Or
yeah. So how it started was I had bought a condo down in Key Largo. Did very well on it. I paid like $460 for it when we bought it. I flew my contractors down and we rehabbed it in a week.
Nice.
And then I stayed it and I kept going there for like a year. And then we sold it a year later for $900,000.
Holy fuck.
So, like,
that's pretty handsome, man. Holy shit.
We had a pretty good profit, right? So then I was kind of shopping around looking for what to do with that cash. And, I was penciling out deals for, 10 unit, 12 unit buildings. And I'm like, this is kind of boring. So I said, what about the STR space? And then I started looking into that a little bit more heavily. And then one of the brokers had reached out to me, an old friend of mine, and said that he had found this off market. So took a drive up, looked at it. The numbers penciled more than anything I've ever seen in my life. So I was like, I can't let this go.
Yeah.
A typical cash on cash, you like to get what, 10, 15%, right? This was penciling at like 36.
Holy shit. Yeah.
And when you're putting in $500,000 in cash, 36% is a really good fucking return.
Yeah, it is. That thing's sexy as all hell, man. Holy
yes,
shit.
Exactly. Come to find out after, it's not nearly that good. There's a lot more that goes into it, but it's still north of 20%. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, just out of curiosity, like, does the cleaning company like connect with like that resort property, or are those like just completely like do you like kind of vertically integrate in a sense? No, just keep it like super separate.
Nope.
Gotcha.
So that property there has innkeepers up there that stay at a single family house that I own. So they kind of take care of the grounds and all the cleaning and the maintenance and guest communication and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
So I'm kind of hands off, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. That's super neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
How's the STR field? Like the STR field is a pretty cool animal to deal with. It does take a lot more of your time if you don't have your systems in place. So we've onboarded a PMS system. My innkeepers kind of handle a lot of the guest communication, which is really key. And then there's a lot of marketing that goes on with the STR too. When it's a little different when you're just trying to rent out a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment,
Yeah, I can definitely imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's super nuts, man. How was it, I guess, from, I guess like stabilizing that resort? Like how was the condition? Like how were like the systems being run prior to versus going through stabilization to kind of getting it to all the way stabilized or what it is now, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, good question. It took about a year. So when I bought the property, I had expected to take over the existing website and all the existing bookings and everything that the current owners had in place. When in fact, I got zero. I got none of that. So
Lovely.
month one, we had to literally build all the listings from scratch, put them up on Airbnb, VRBO, Bookings.com. Then I had to get my own direct booking website built from scratch. So it took about a good 8 or 9 months before we got back to where the previous owners were,
Yeah.
and we still haven't really captured all of the revenue that the place had when we first bought it. So it's been a long process.
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
imagine, man. I mean, a shit ton of moving pieces, across the board, right? I mean,
Tons. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, even just from a like an operations standpoint, how was it like physically? Like, did you have to, reno any of the the structures or anything like that, or like the grounds, or like did you have to
No,
do
so
any
when I
crazy
bought it, when I bought it, it was pretty much turnkey.
Oh,
They had
nice.
already done most of the renovations, at least most of the CapEx stuff. We changed some minor things. And when I say minor, I mean, bed linens,
Small. Yeah.
towels, robes, things like that, like really small things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super crazy, man. Yeah, that's absolutely neat. I mean, to be able to especially come from the outside and kind of, bring in that operational excellence. And I assume, some of the principles and um, stuff like that from like the cleaning company and
Hmm.
maybe you like your background in the past as well, and be
Hmm.
able to just develop that into kind of give it the modern like excellence that it was probably missing, with the
Exactly.
past owner.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we had to do is modernize most of the things and kind of streamline and automate too, right? So that's a big thing. When you're renting short term, you're getting maybe, 15, 20 guests a week coming through. You don't want to spend your time having to reply and answer all the questions for that many guests. So everything's got to have an operational bucket to go in, right? And it's got to be automated. If it's not automated, you'd be on your phone 24/7.
Yikes.
Yeah. Or your computer or wherever you decide to do your work from, but you wouldn't be able to unplug. And if you know me, I can't have that. I need to unplug.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Amen. You know what's funny, Steve, is I forget if I told you because it's been a little bit, but I had one of my units in Leominster, just like a 2-bed. I did like the medium term rental on it, and I did
Mhm.
it for about a year, and it went all right. But I ended up finding it just wasn't for me, man. I'm like, I didn't want like just the extra because again, like
Yeah.
it was just me, like, self-managing that property and whatever. I just it wasn't my cup of tea, you
It's
know?
a struggle.
Yeah.
It is a struggle. I mean, midterm's a little bit easier because you can get someone in there for 6 months. So picture managing that where every weekend you've got 2 new guests.
Yeah. I
That's
probably would have
tough.
shot myself, man.
It's tough,
I'm not
right?
gonna lie.
That's a lot that goes into it. So people get all, they love that sexy ADR, right? Like the $300 a night, but they don't realize that you're struggling to book Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's so much easier to put somebody in place in a 2-bedroom unit and have them sign a year lease.
Exactly. Yeah.
As long as you vet them well, like it's pretty
Right.
simple.
Yeah, and that's why I ended up, more or less kind of moving back, you know what I mean? But
Right.
yeah, it definitely wasn't my cup of tea, but yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, especially to your point, I forget how many was it, like 6
Yeah. Yeah.
buildings?
Six buildings, 7 structures, but 6 rentals.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, that's badass.
Yeah.
Is there I guess like season wise, do you see like seasonal dynamics in like the summer, the winter? Like how does that kind
Naturally.
of
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
over?
So our busy season is our busiest season is the fall for leaf peepers.
Gotcha.
So, mid to late September through October is A+ season. Summer's a good solid A, and then winter's probably a good B+ for skiing. So we're centrally located in between Cannon Mountain and Bretton Woods.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Damn.
We're right on Route 3, so we have lit up signage right on the highway. So
Wow.
yeah, it's
That's
pretty cool.
sweet, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, check it out. It's called themountaincottages.com.
Yeah. I love that, man. That's neat.
Yeah.
So what I guess kind of what's the next thing that you're going after now, man? You know, what's kind of top of mind? Like what are you shooting for?
So lately I've been getting back into the flip game, and I think
Gotcha.
it's more not because I love it, but because I've got two teenagers that are, one just graduated school and the other one's graduating this year. So I kind of wanted them to get their feet wet in real estate.
Yeah.
And I figured what better way to teach them than from literally the ground up, from buying a distressed property and turning it into a gem.
Yeah. I think
So
that's the coolest thing in the world, man.
yeah, closed on one last week in Amherst. And as I was saying earlier today, we closed on another one today in Sandown. So I've got two going on right now.
Absolutely, man. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, something like I was hoping that that you were gonna mention, one of the flips and with like your kids as well and like seeing that because I know you were telling me like a few weeks ago, like when we, at that meetup or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I still think that's the coolest flipping thing in the world. Just to be able to like, give them that exposure at that young of an age and be like, hey, like this is, whether they're like into the space that dad is into his world or maybe not so much, but
Right.
like, hey, like this is like a legit project. Like this is what the numbers look like. This is the possibility. This is what goes into it. Like maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. It'd be great if it was, but
Yeah, of course. I'm the same way. I'm like, please do this. Yeah, it's a tough way to make a living, but if you like what you do, it's really not that tough.
Yeah,
I've even put them in syndications.
that's badass.
Yeah. That's how I was supposed to. And so I kind of stopped working a couple of years ago, and I was just going to do syndications from here on out.
Yeah.
Now, with the kids graduating, I kind of find myself going back to the basics and, being a teacher and kind of a mentor to them, showing them, the next steps and what needs to get done.
Yeah. That's super neat, man. I love that. That's the coolest thing in the world.
Thank you, man.
I definitely hope to do that to my kids someday. 4 of my kids
Hopefully.
someday.
Well, like you said, it's only beneficial if they like it. If they don't like it and want nothing to do with it, then there's nothing I can do. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super neat, man. I love that. Yeah. No, it's that's awesome, man. It's such an incredible story. I mean, even like thus far, like just going from like just those multiple hurdles and paths of progression and just continuing to like build up and build up and build up. And that's neat, man, that this is kind of like the spot that you're at now with, in a sense, like taking it back to the basics and jumping back in, like showing the kids another avenue and that kind of thing, and seeing if they're into it and that kind of thing, and just kind of going from there.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of struggles along the way, but I'm a big fan of believing in yourself. If you can do it, do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
an old famous quote by Walt Disney: if you can dream it, you can do it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I teach my kids is, they're teenagers, right? They like materialistic things. And I tell them that's not about what it is. I say, picture your life the way you want to live it in 20 years and work backwards from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Reverse
Have your end
engineering.
goal in mind and then work backwards from there. Don't worry about what your friends are doing. Worry about what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's huge, man. To, drop in that like reverse engineer and exactly try to work backwards. And
yep.
I feel like sometimes too, like it's so easy to just get caught in the day to day and like kind of focus on, like surviving, I guess, if you will, rather than, thinking bigger picture and thriving. And I feel like it's definitely good to, be able to step back once in a while, or not even once in a while, but relatively often, and just be able to review, what the big thing is that you're after in kind of a micro and a macro sense, and see if you're still aligned with like, going on to that and, kind of going in the right path.
I kind of do that. I kind of do that myself. So once a week, I'll kind of reflect on myself and see what I'm doing to move the needle forward.
Yeah.
And then, once a month, usually the family will get together and we'll kind of talk about, where we're going with this. Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we on the right page? Are we going backwards? Are we just staying stagnant? Or, what do you kids think? And we kind of ask them their opinion as well.
Yeah. That's neat, man. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, it's funny you say that, man, about kind of like the reflecting and that kind of thing. Because I was just telling a couple of my buddies, I just did that like recently. And like I feel
Okay.
like in the past, like 4 to 5 months, like it didn't necessarily like slip off the horse, but like the podcast, wasn't there was a bunch of other things that were kind of I was prioritizing a lot higher, and the podcast ended up slipping down. And
Sure.
there was some agency stuff that I was working on too, which was definitely very thankful for. But it was kind of one of those things. I'm just focusing on like, all right, like, here's the next thing. Like, let's get this deal done with. And, what's
Yep.
next, what's next. And, now that things, I guess, have quieted down a bit more in a sense, I'm like, what was I doing again? Like, what were we going after again? Like,
Yeah. Like sometimes you got to get back to the basics, right?
Exactly.
The basics of what got you where you are today. And I remember when you started this podcast, this was a while ago now.
Yeah. It's been a little over 4 years. So I'm like, dude, like, you gotta freaking get back in here. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right, man. It's one of those things that you definitely have to reflect once in a while and kind of make sure that you're on that journey still, and just kind of keep focused and that kind of thing.
Of course.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge at times, but you got to get it done.
Absolutely. Yep. But hell yeah, man. No, that's super cool, Steve. It was awesome to kind of jump into your story, man. I like like we were saying earlier, it's I was never really sure like how like the path of everything had gone on and that kind of thing, and
Right.
what you were shooting for as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's super neat.
I still kind of don't know what I'm shooting for, to be honest with you. I mean, I have an end game in mind. I want to end up, down south diving off a boat somewhere. I just don't really like. I used to have a pretty clear path of how to get there, and now I'm not really sure yet. Because
Yeah.
now I'm back to I'm back doing the flip game again, so that's kind of taking up a lot of my time. But it's all for the greater good.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
something like, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Like, I feel like it's one of those things too that like maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to like just kind of be skating along in a sense, and like definitely focus towards a vision and all that kind of thing, but like
Mhm.
letting yourself kind of be fluid and flowy to pick up something here, pick up something there, like kind of see how you feel about it, see how it goes, and I guess kind of not like deviate, but I guess kind of add like a little bit of flavor like on your way to that path with like different things. And
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that. Right. So I mean, it's your path that you're forging through life. So whatever kind of suits your fancy, or whatever new shiny object that catches your eye that you really want to pursue, if you have the time and ability to pursue it, do it.
yeah,
If it's gonna make you happy, do it. And if there's
run
a
with it.
profit involved as well, why not?
Exactly.
You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why we work, right? It's for profit. So if you're going to be able to do something that you get to enjoy, share it with family or even friends, then why not try it out?
Yeah, rip it up.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I've done a little bit of everything, right? Because I guess I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So I just keep trying new things. I just keep trying new things. Eventually I'll find something that I love.
I love that, man. I feel like that's something too that is definitely gonna kind of or something that's like internal more or less of like just having that ambition to just kind of keep grasping for different things and trying different things out, and seeing what gives you more fulfillment, less fulfillment, and what you want to just dump more time, resources, and all that kind of thing into, and see where it goes.
Yeah, of course.
Hell yeah,
you got to stay. I mean, you got to be a kid at heart, right? If you take everything too seriously, then you're going to die of a heart attack and stress and all that. So
exactly.
I always try to keep things as light as I can. As long as the bills are paid, the rest of it's fun.
Yeah, I love that, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was awesome, Steve. Thank you, man. So much for coming on here, man.
Yeah, it was like I told you before, it was the first one I've ever been on, so didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I've done it like different ways in the past too, where like for the first like 6 months that I did it, quite some time ago, I had like a list of questions like 1 to 10, and like I would just go down the list, and I started to fucking hate doing it that way, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's way too structured. I'm like, it's not like it's not like authentic, you know. I'm like, I like to just, just jump on, like do a tiny little intro and be like, fuck it, like let's see where it goes today.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's gonna be a free flowing conversation.
Yeah, man. And like I've always enjoyed the like just the rabbit holes of like and all the random side tangents and stuff. I'm like, fuck it, let's go down that way, like hell yeah. It's a lot more fun.
Why
not? But
very cool.
Hell yeah, man. So where on like social media and stuff can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all under the same name, just Steve Niemaszyk. And then you can always find us at the Mountain Cottages as well.
Yes, awesome. I'll drop the link for the cottages down below as well, guys. So definitely go and check that out. I'm gonna check that out myself as well.
The direct booking website is up, so feel free to book your stays. And if you want to call, just mention the podcast, and the innkeepers will give you a 10% discount.
Oh, damn, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, that was
no worries, man. Anytime.
Blast, man.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.